Welcome everyone to this week's Big 12 predictions and previews. We're looking at week 8 in the Big 12 Conference, and we'll see what surprises hold for us this week as the Big 12 North has officially become a mess after some surprises in games last week. We're going to start first this week with Iowa State visiting Nebraska. We know the story of the Cornhuskers. We saw them lose to Texas Tech last week 31-10. And now we have a quarterback situation allegedly in Nebraska. Coach Bo Pelini going to wait till Saturday to make a decision between incumbent starter Zach Lee or possibly freshman Cody Green. You watched Green come in last week, sparked the offense a little bit against Texas Tech before committing a turnover late, but they're going to decide this week who they're going to go with. Zach Lee, quite frankly, has just not got it done over the past weeks. He had the good comeback against Missouri, but outside of that, unless they were playing Sun Belt opponents, he just hasn't got it done. I think this week you're going to see Cody Green get substantially more snaps for the Cornhuskers. The offense has to find consistency. They can't rely solely on Roy Halou Jr. and their running back core, which is injured right now, to carry them through the season. Iowa State, on the other hand, they're coming off a Big 12 win, which is saying something because they haven't came off of one of those in quite some time. Still a very balanced team offensively, and their defense starting to step up, especially in limiting the run. Last 2 weeks, 89 yards and 109 yards respectively, they've held their opponents to. Last week you saw them get the win over Baylor. They controlled that game, got a good game out of their quarterback, Austin Arnaud. Tiller, the backup quarterback, actually came in the later parts of the game and did well too. Shows them that they have two options there for Tom Herman and his offense. Nebraska's defense is good, we know that. We saw Ndamukong Suh and what he did with Texas Tech last week and what he's done in games prior to that. The key is going to be is can their offense back it up? At this point, I have a lot of doubt, and probably you do too after watching last week's game against Texas Tech. I think this game is going to be ugly this week. Iowa State's going to keep it close. Nebraska's offense is going to be challenged supremely by head coach Bo Pelini. If they can respond to that, I think they get a win here. But if not, Iowa State's going to keep this close, and they are fully capable of going into Lincoln and pulling an upset. Next game on our list, 5-1 Oklahoma State, coming off a win over Missouri. They visit Baylor 3-3, reeling a little bit since the loss of Robert Griffin. Oklahoma State quietly recovered very well since that early season loss to Houston. They're sitting there, second place in the Big 12 South Division, setting where they need to with a big matchup against Texas coming up on Halloween. That's right where Oklahoma State needs to be. Their key has been replacing injuries, or in this case, suspended players. Keith Totson, Hubert Anium have done a very nice job for Oklahoma State. They continue to blossom in the face of key losses. I don't know if Oklahoma State's going to have Des Bryant back anytime soon. That's up to the NCAA. But Totson has done a very nice job at running back, keeps his team extremely balanced, extremely dangerous. Baylor, on the other hand, offensively has just fallen apart. They're struggling mightily without Robert Griffin, and they're going to continue to be challenged every single week in this conference. And it looks at this point, they're kind of reeling backwards. They need to put their foot down and get some momentum back. I just don't know that they can do it this week at home against Oklahoma State. Bill Young's defense at Oklahoma State has done a nice job growing every single week. Last week you saw them harass Missouri quarterback Blaine Gabbert into 3 interceptions. If they continue to do that, they're going to continue to have success. Look for another big week offensively, a good balanced attack from Oklahoma State. I think they roll in this game in Waco over the Bears. Next game on our list, Colorado visits Kansas State. And folks, this is a very key game in a wide-open North Division. Winner of this game guaranteed at least a share of the lead in the Big 12 North Conference. Kansas State, they get a rebirth last week, absolutely hammer Texas A&M, 60-14, of which I have no explanation for. Daniel Thomas, the running back for Kansas State, huge week. Led the team in rushing, scored a boatload of touchdown in the Wildcats win. Colorado, on the other hand, Tyler Hansen has given the Buffaloes a little bit of new life. Maybe helping save Dan Hawkins' job temporarily. They beat Kansas, the North Division favorites, at that point in the season in Boulder last week. 34-30. Absolutely, KU's defense could do nothing with Colorado. They got key drives, a great performance from their running back, Rodney Stewart, controlled the tempo, and got out of there with a win. Key matchup in this game, I think, is Daniel Thomas, like I said before, the running back for Kansas State, versus a Colorado defense that last week got quite nasty. Limited KU to -8 yards rushing, a rushing attack with 2 good running backs that have been pretty well over the prior weeks. If they can limit Kansas State and keep Thomas contained, Colorado's going to have a great chance in this game. Rodney Stewart, the running back for Colorado, going to have a big game for the Buffs. Keep Kansas State's offense off the field a little bit. Don't let Daniel Thomas and the Wildcats get any momentum. I think the key to this one is the fact that it's in Manhattan. Kansas State rebounded nicely from that loss to Texas Tech, defended their home turf. I think they're going to get it done again against this week when they get a strong performance from Daniel Thomas, their running back. Look for the Wildcats to win this one over the Buffaloes in Manhattan. Oklahoma at 3-3 visits Kansas and Lawrence at 5-1. Last week you saw Kansas' shoot-'em-out attitude catch up with them. They lose to Colorado, which we just discussed, 34-30. The running game was extremely limited by the Buffalo defense, and they got outscored. This could be a repetitive nature for KU if they don't solve some things defensively. Oklahoma, on the other hand, well documented last week. They lose to Texas, and they once again lose Sam Bradford. Pretty much from this point in the year, you might as well lock it in. Landry Jones is going to be the man for Oklahoma. I don't see Bradford coming back or attempting to come back because, quite frankly, too much at risk with an NFL career ahead of him. One hit could put him back that much further. OU's defense is big time. They're one of the best in the country. We watched it last week against Texas. They're going to keep them in every game. The key is going to be, can Oklahoma score to beat teams? Landry Jones is going to have to settle in, accept the role as a starter, and make better decisions. And the big key, DeMarco Murray, the running back, has to stay healthy. They have to have a running game to be able to give Landry Jones some time to develop as a passer. Key thing for KU is their offense. They have a lot of weapons. Can they rebound from that performance in Boulder? A big play could decide this game. If OU is limited offensively and can't score, one big mess up by the OU secondary could lead to a big touchdown pass from Todd Reesing to Desmond Briscoe, and KU could get out of here with a win. I think ultimately Landry Jones and the Oklahoma offense are going to be supremely challenged this week by Bob Stoops. He's going to earn his money as one of the highest paid coaches in the college game. I look for a Landry Jones of more of a Tulsa memory when he threw 6 touchdown passes. I think OU gets it worked out offensively because, quite frankly, KU's defense is just not that good. I think Oklahoma goes into a close one in Lawrence and beats the Jayhawks. In the case of the Texas Longhorns, they get past their big one last week. They defeat Oklahoma 16-13 in Dallas. Good news, bad news scenario for Texas. Yes, you beat OU and put that aside, but their offense struggled once again against a good OU defense, something Texas is going to have to get lined out. Missouri, on the other hand, coming off a loss to Oklahoma State, their second consecutive, Missouri and Blaine Gabbert are struggling. It's very simple. You apply pressure to Blaine Gabbert, things start to fall apart. Look for Texas to use a balanced offensive attack, rely a little bit more on their running game, and develop that to keep Missouri off the field and let Colt McCoy do the things he does as a leader for Texas to win this game. At Missouri will be a tough atmosphere. That's a night game. That crowd will be fired up, but if you're Texas, you're the number 3 team in the country. These are the things you have to do if you want to play in a BCS title game. They have to go in there and get it done. Look for a Texas defense to take the advantage. Will Muschamp and the Texas defense are going to apply a lot of pressure to Blaine Gabbert, keep him uncomfortable, try to create some turnovers after they saw him throw 3 interceptions last week against Oklahoma State. I think Texas's defense way too much for Missouri in this game. I see the Longhorns winning this one in Columbia. Next game we're going to look at, the one here Saturday night in Lubbock. Texas A&M visits Texas Tech. In the case of the Aggies, the only thing I really have to say is what the hell. 5 turnovers, 62 points later against Kansas State, and you have now reminded all of us why you were picked dead last in the South Division. I'm not going to put a lot of confidence in this team the rest of the year after that uninspired performance. They relied heavily on the pass, did not try to run the football with their 2 good running backs, and got systematically destroyed by the Wildcats. Gerard Johnson fell apart, 3 interceptions, broke his long streak without having an interception, and they only managed negative 13 yards rushing. Absolutely dismal. Any team's going to beat them if they perform that way. In the case of Texas Tech this week, the quarterback fun continues. Allegedly now, Stephen Sheffield with a foot injury that's going to withhold him for 2 to 3 weeks. Taylor Pott's going to be back this week. If he's not going to be able to go, it'll be Seth Dagey who'll step in. I think this is a challenge to Taylor Potts. I think he'll step up to it. He gets a chance to reassert himself and show why he's the better quarterback. You can't ask for a better situation. He'll see if he can do that against an A&M defense that has shown sparks this year, but last week got absolutely shredded by Kansas State. The running game for K-State really set the pace, and that's why this week I look for Texas Tech to have some fun with Baron Batch and Harrison Jeffers. Let them run the ball. Let Taylor Potts get reaccumulated to this atmosphere and do the things that a talented quarterback can do. If Tech's defense continues to play stout, which they are right now, they're going to roll in this game. They did a great job against last week at Nebraska. They limited Nebraska's offense and caused them a whole bunch of trouble. This defense has continued to grow this year under Ruffin McNeil. I think they created a lot of problems for Texas A&M and Gerard Johnson. A&M has weapons. Tech will have to be careful. Gerard Johnson, a very mobile quarterback. They got a good receiving core, two good running backs in Gray and Michael. They can score points, but I think Texas Tech has a lot of momentum right now. They're into the polls. They're ranked for the first time. Regardless of who they have at quarterback this week, Tech has to rally around that individual, let their defense keep doing the things they've been doing, and I think ultimately, after last week's performance against Kansas State, I don't trust A&M, and I'm not going to until they prove me wrong. I think Texas Tech rolls big time in this game Saturday night in Lubbock. That's going to wrap up our look at this week's schedule in the Big 12 Conference. For the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal, I'm Zach Long.